Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Hype for Black Enterprise. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior VP, Executive Editor at Large for Black Enterprise. And of course, we have a great conversation with some great brothers that's really going to get behind the process of creating great opportunities for Black entrepreneurs. Now, this episode of Beyond the Hype is brought to us by Explore Asheville. And these brothers are based in Asheville, so that makes a great harmonious conversation for what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to the show, the founders and the executive director of Black Wall Street AVL. We're talking to Jay Hackett, who is the founder, and Bruce Waller, who's the executive director. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for
Hey, thanks for having us.
having me. Absolutely.
Man, I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. Black Enterprise is all about, we're on the same mission, let's put it this way. We've been on this mission. We're kind of the Air Force. You guys are ground troops getting it done on the ground. Before we get into Black Wall Street, and I definitely want to talk about Grindfest, which I understand both of you guys produce, talk to me about your journey to your respective places. What brought you to where you are now and what you're doing now? Let's start with Jay. Who are you and what got you to where you are right now?
Well, I guess what got me to where I am is I, I grew up in an environment that people would call poor. I just didn't know that it was poor. We were fine. I did realize at a young age that when I'm from Philadelphia, and I realized that when I went downtown, people were able to do things that people in my neighborhood were not able to do in North Philly. And then I start to explore, well, how come they get to do that? So I would leave my neighborhood, which is a Puerto Rican neighborhood in North Philly, and then I would go downtown to Center City, and I see opera and beautiful restaurants from all over the world, and I couldn't afford any of the stuff, but I went to school down there. So just kind of looking at how expensive those things were, I started to imagine what can I do in order to afford some of those things. And at the corner store, they sold Little Debbie cakes for 20 cents, but I could buy a box of them for $1. So I went to the grocery store, bought it for $1, then resold it for less than what the corner store sold it for. So that's my beginning of entrepreneurship. And then I started to just translate messages from one group of people to another group of people and just realized that there was information going on one side of the track that had never made it to our side. So that was my journey and how I did it. Today, I continue because I enjoy reaching back. I love to see people grow, and I really do believe that everything is available. We just haven't taken full advantage of it yet.
And
Yeah,
Bruce, what about you? What's your
yeah.
journey?
So honestly, it's tied in with Jay, because most people know, and I always publicly announce that Jay is my mentor. So to see our relationship progress into working alongside your mentor is always a great story, and that's what it's all about. That those mentees become like their mentor, so they can pay it forward to other individuals that come forth. But my situation, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and mine started with growing up in the suburbs of Fulton, and single mother, 3 kids, and just trying to make it. And I think my biggest thing was just trying to find my place in the world because I didn't want to be on the streets, and at the same time, I didn't do too well in school. I actually suffered or proclaimed suffer from the school system learning disability. So they placed me in these settings where was not conducive for my growth. So I was always having to fight to show myself approved, whether it was at home or whether it was in the school. And as I progressed in that, I really just tapped into self to really like, how can I had to grow up myself in a lot of different ways, even though I had supports and people around me. And it wasn't until I maybe turned Jay, 17? Oh, at 17, and I met Jay. And then that kind of like from there took on a relationship to where Hackett showed me a lot of different things as far as in growth when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to doing humanity work, like community work. And I was already like into those things, but it was really big for me to find that, and then developing my leadership in the military, and then into now who I am and always been doing was marketing and community development, and it kind of took from there. So who I am today is contribute from where I came from and where I lived at. but also intersecting with right people like Jay and other individuals along the way, that were in that same mindset that helped support me in my development so I can continue to grow and to lead movements. And that's when I started to specialize in that, and that helped me out a lot to identify who I am today to moving forward, to help
You
everybody else.
already you al- you already said my favorite word, which is mentor. I mean, anybody who
Super
knows me and
important.
follows me on social media, I use the hashtag my mentees are better than yours, and that's kind of our signal to each other that that's one of my
Yeah.
people. Or they'll say my mentor is better than yours. I've been like similar to you, man. I when I came out of college, I felt under mentored. And to your point, Jay, I started when I was in college. I realized there was a whole world of information, resources, customs, um, opportunities that somehow. And I grew up on the Jersey Shore, the North Jersey Shore, in Long Branch, New Jersey,
Okay,
not
okay.
that far from Philly. Son of a divorced single mother, oldest of four kids, and it wasn't until I went away to college and I realized, like you said, there's this whole world of resources that I didn't know about, and it wasn't about distance. It was just about what was being shared. And so, yeah, man, I love that this is a mentor mentee story as much as it is anything else, because that's how we bring each other along. It really is really critical to our ability to advance as a community and as a people, particularly as Black men. We really do have to just pour into one another and bringing people along and help them crack the code, if you will. In this case, to entrepreneurship, but just all kinds of other things. So Jay, what brought you to Asheville? I mean, you started out in Philly.
Yeah,
What brought you to Asheville?
yeah. I started out in Philadelphia. I was I found, well, I've always known that my family historically was from Salisbury, North Carolina. Actually,
Mhm.
outside of Salisbury, a small suburb called Granite Quarry. And the story is told that my great great grandmother was was a black woman that was chosen by the master to lay with. In the family, we call her something else, but I don't know if it's allowed on y'all's platform. Um,
I
but you
understand.
know what Black history tells us about those
Yeah.
days. Um,
Yes.
and but apparently the guy must have loved her because when he passed away, he left all of his land to her, and he never
Oh
remarried.
wow.
And that area is called Hackett Town. Anyway, I came down south, and I was awarded a scholarship from American Red Cross. Elizabeth Dole at the time was president, and she said if I wanted to go to college, that I could pick wherever I wanted to go, and she would pay for it. And but it had to be North Carolina. And so I looked at schools, and Asheville was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. And that year, we actually outpaced and outranked Chapel Hill. And so I was like, yeah, this is the best school in the world. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And that's why I chose Asheville, because it was pretty and had good food. Today it's still pretty and still has good food. But I got here in 1998. I was 17 years old as a freshman. I was a music major. I planned to be an opera singer. Um, and then I switched to sociology, had a minor in Africana studies. So that was my journey at UNC Asheville, and then went to college in West Africa at University of Ghana, and then came back, got married, had kids, and I guess the rest is history. But yeah, Asheville is a beautiful place, great food, but also has great people.
Right. So Bruce, how did you end up in
Yeah,
Asheville?
Jay. Well, I was in the military, and I was
Hmm.
a parachute rigger. A parachute rigger is pretty much pack parachutes and jump out of airplanes. So that was my MOS in the Army. And when I left out of MOS training and jump school in Fort Benning, I actually needed finding somewhere to go. I didn't want to go back home because that's where I left. I didn't want to be stationed at home. So Jay was like, "Hey Bruce, like we got some work that we could do in Asheville." And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of crazy because the station they recommended me was like 2.5 hours away from Asheville." And so I had chosen that area because we already had some presence out there. Jay already had some connections, and so it just kind of fate kind of ended up that way. It didn't try to make it that way. It just kind of landed that way. And so I was like, I'm gonna go and come to Asheville. Lord have mercy. I came to Asheville. I said, where Jay, you remember? I was like, where the people at? Like, where who? I was so hot. I was like, man, I done came to this old hick town. Not trying to throw nobody under the bus. I came to this old hick town. Me and my brother, fresh out the military, Julian, another good brother of mine, and we was like, we out here, and what we didn't think nothing was for us. And come to find out, over the course of time, we now here and doing amazing work. And I love Asheville. It's a great space, and been here, Lord, 10 years. So
10 years. Yeah, they was staying in somebody's basement, and Bruce was studying to be an insurance agent.
you remember that? Oh man,
See,
I was struggling, but it
yeah,
was
you got there.
a
You got there. That's
story.
what
Yeah,
matters.
that's how I ended up there. So did that for 5 years with the military, and that's been fun. It's been a fun journey.
Well, I've been to North Carolina many times. My grandfather is from North Carolina. My
Hmm.
paternal grandfather. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was raised in New Jersey, so he came to New Jersey, and that's why my family is in New Jersey. But I used to do some board work at Duke, and because there's a lot of black-owned businesses in Raleigh, Durham, I've been there a lot for Black Enterprise over the years, but I've never been to Asheville, so it looks like I got to
Yeah, come.
fix that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You'll love it.
Yeah,
Okay, it's on the calendar. I'll be getting on planes, bro.
come to
So
Grindfest. We love that.
oh yeah, yeah, I got it on my
Okay.
calendar for real, for real. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. So listen, you're both in Asheville. Tell me about the genesis of Black Wall Street. Obviously, that's an important, not only literal um, part of our history when we talk about not just Tulsa, but the Black Wall Streets that existed in communities all across the country at one point. But it's also now a very important symbolic um, um, touch point for us as a way of communicating about how we can support and grow Black-owned businesses. But talk about the evolution of what you guys started, what you founded, Jay, in Asheville.
So I started my first $1 million business when I was 26 years old, and I had 150 employees and 500 clients.
Mhm.
But I had no lawyers, no accountants, no contracts. And I went to prison for a white collar crime. I was sentenced to 4 years of prison, 3 years probation, and a $1.5 million fine. And it was all over the newspapers. It was horrible. It was embarrassing. And I'm like, but y'all know I didn't do this. And they say, yeah, we know you didn't do it. But according to the law, you're responsible because you're the owner. A hard lesson to learn, a
Oh
hard pill to
wow.
swallow, but I dealt with it. And instead of running from it, I was incarcerated with the guy. We were standing in the child line, and it was a white guy. And he said to me, he said, Jay, don't hide. He said, go back to Asheville. Go back to Asheville,
Mm,
live it down, and let your good work speak for itself. So I came back to Asheville on work release from Gaston County Jail. It's 2 hours to Asheville. And they hired me not to do lawn care, not to do fast food, but they hired me to be a program director in a workforce development program. And
oh
so I
wow.
was working as a program director, and at night I would drive 2 hours back to the jail, take off my regular clothes, put on my jail clothes. And I did that for 6 months, and then they promoted me to executive director. While I was on work release, while I was on probation, I became executive director of the region's largest workforce development program, specifically targeted for returning citizens and unhoused people and folks that were in the housing authority. And what I realized was that there were all these opportunities, and I was really grateful for making the money I could make. It was a whole lot more than my other cellmates and prison mates were making. I was really grateful for it, but it was I didn't have I always had that itch to do more and to do bigger things. So in 2018, a law firm, Womble Bond Dickerson, and our local law firm, Pisca Legal Services, we worked together to design a social enterprise model where where the nonprofit will own for-profit subsidiaries. And so this nonprofit became more sustainable, not because we got more grant funds or donations, but because we were doing business. Then we started to compete on
Man.
contracts. And then after I left that agency, COVID happened. And then, I mean, I had all this information. Asheville is growing and vibrant, and there's all this opportunity. And so I started a business. I started a business, and I said, well, I don't want it to just be any business. We're going to open it up to other people.
Mhm.
And so we started the coffee shop, and the coffee shop has a big open floor. But we opened the garage door and gave out the tables and said, hey, if anybody has something to sell, grab a table and we'll sell it.
Yep.
Grab a
Wow.
table and come sell it. So if you walk in there, it would look like a swap meet or a flea market, but it's all black folks. And so I made money, you made money. I mean, one of the principles of Kwanzaa is cooperative work, and when we
Yeah.
think about
Cooperative economics.
how we work together, and I guess marketing would call it cross marketing, cross promotion. It worked. So then NC Idea Foundation, y'all, you're probably familiar with them up in Durham area. They gave
Yep.
us a grant. They gave a grant to a for-profit agency to test out this black business incubator that we now call Black Wall Street.
Mhm.
And in our first year, we said, hey, you give me the money and we'll enroll 20 black businesses and help them reach 250,000 in revenue. However, in that first year, we enrolled
Yep.
74 black businesses
Yep.
and they exceeded $1
Wow.
million in revenue. So nonprofits are good for the health of an economy, but for profits are important for the growth of an economy. If things are going to
Yes.
grow, whether you're a returning citizen, single mom, learning disability, any other type of label, if you can take your idea and test it out in the right environment, you can actually make money and establish, progress in business for yourself. And also, what I found out, as much discrimination as there is
Yep.
and still exists, when you create a product that the market is ready for and is in demand, doors open.
Absolutely.
You said a whole entire word, man. And just the idea of creating pathways for returning citizens. We have an event that I hope your brothers will get to this year in October called the Black Men Excel Summit. One of the most powerful sessions we ever did at Black Men Excel was a session on creating entrepreneurial opportunities for returning citizens and what that did not just for the returning citizens, but for the economies
Yep.
that they served.
Oh
It was
yeah,
like, no, this is a more than a win-win.
absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
We definitely want to be there because in
yeah,
that first year, look, here we are, a brand new coffee shop that opened up this thing. And I don't even drink coffee. But in that first year, not only did we generate over $1 million in revenue, but these black companies created over 22 jobs. And then
yes,
I did an economic model where I mimicked what Explore Asheville did, and we're grateful for them as partners. They said when this much money comes into cash registers, it creates this much tax benefit. So I said, oh, well, black folk got cash registers, and we brought in this. And so that and so I started to have a different conversation. And in our partnership and our collaboration, what Bruce is able to do is meet people where they are and have FaceTime with people and really take them from connecting digitally to meeting in person and having that same passion in person and being excited about the journey. So I'm able to work on the model in the background and to design the framework. And he's able to inform it and to activate it. What we found is that there is a gap not only in our economy in Asheville, but there are gaps in every economy. And all of those
yes,
gaps have opportunities. The opportunity does not discriminate. The people might, the system might, but the opportunity does not discriminate. And if we as people are willing to face the odds, just like our forefathers did, face the odds, blaze the trails, we can actually fill that gap and open up a pathway, a type of economic railroad for other
Yeah.
people.
powerful, powerful.
Yeah.
Bruce, talk to me
Yeah.
about your work in this space and
So
how
when
you got
Jay
involved
presented
in
to
what you
me
do.
as he was saying, he said, "Bruce, I got this idea," and he had already received some funds from NC Idea. And he explained it to me. I understood what Black Wall Street was, but when he began to show me the economic model, already in my mind, community development, expansion, and marketing, when it comes to how do we engage people. Like my skill set is I'm a together specialist. I could bring anyone in the world together and take them where they want to go. Like that's my niche. And so I've done it before. I became nationally recognized in other ways, but in the entrepreneurial aspect, this was a little bit different for me. And so, Jay already being my mentor, I was like, all right, what we doing? We have done many projects before and have expanded them, national projects and have done it before. But this one, when I saw it, I was like, we have something special. So to begin to take the phases of what Jay had already and to expand it and open it up, and even to add different components to it based on these sessions I had with members. Like, all right, there's some of the other things that they needed, and then we began to add it and tweak the model and add to it. And then that's when we really knew we had something special. When I would begin to, hey, we know we need a call so where people can hear each other and connect and speak. And we know we wanted to continue to do the swap. And then that turned into what else can these members do? And as I began to excavate and discover what members do, it caught word of like, hey, y'all helping them make money. Can you help me make money? I want to join. And me and Jay, I was like, well, people want to join. Like, what we do? It wasn't even. It's only supposed to be like 20. Collectively to raise $250,000 together. And I'm thinking of like, Jay is always advantageous. Like, what else can this do? And I'm the same way. Like, what else can this do? And so the relationship that as far as in the minds of Jay is as a researcher, and it can build models, and my way to see how people interact and connect, and I had to take them to the next step and go further. And I think that was an explosion right there because we had worked in many different ways. And so these individuals was like, I want to be a part. And so we made them a part, and we gave them they had like a little fee they had to pay to see if they really wanted to do it.
Hmm.
Because or
Right.
in
Skin in the
most
game.
economic support organizations, or even any organization, they have access to resources, but it's free and they take it for granted. But if somebody paid a little something to be a part of something, that showed us like, okay, they really want the help and support. And I think that helped weed out individuals that just say they wanted a handout, but an entrepreneur figuring out how they really wanted to grow their business. So the people who became a part in that year, that first year, and I was like, Jay, like, this is we got something special. Like, it's really special. And then
Mhm.
I think what really turned the curve is when we have our strategic plan meeting. Jay was like, we need our strategic plan meeting. I was like, yeah, I believe we need that. And that really like took it up and revved it to where we could see the next 3 to 5 years of what we wanted to do. So now we have, over 140 members. It's still growing. And now
Wow.
it's getting to the point I was like, building a template. I was like, Jay, you have something special here. We adding the pieces to it based on the foundation. And then how do we scale this in other areas that resemble Asheville? And so that's where we really found out we are filling the gap, not just in our community in Western North Carolina, which is important, but around the United States and even the world. So that's kind of my part that I'm playing and really activating and seeing the other aspects of the model and the things that we can add as we grow and tweak as we move forward.
You say you're speaking the language that we talk about all the time at Black Enterprise. Our mission, even starting from our late founder Earl Graves, was that we do solution-oriented media, not just media for the sake of doing media, but media to solve
Correct.
problems and address issues. And this idea of scalable solutions is one thing for it to work in a small environment. It's another thing to say, okay, how can we
Right.
duplicate this at scale? And so hearing you say that, Bruce, is really right on point. But I also want to ask you guys something else because you founded this initiative in 2020, and obviously we knew everything that was going on in 2020. There would be some people that would assume the worst time, the worst
Yeah.
environment to try to start something new like this would have been in 2020, as we were coping with everything from the unrest following the George Floyd murder to obviously COVID and the pandemic and the impact that had and changed everything. Things will never really be the same. Um, but you're not the first founder, Jay, or first person I interviewed on this show that started something that was really having a major impact, and they started it in 2020 when a lot of people would have been like, this ain't really the time to do that." But talk to me about what it was like to start this initiative in 2020 and navigate it to where it is now, because it wasn't like things happened in 2020 and then 2021 things were fine. It was it
Yeah.
was 2021, and then kind of in 2022 we started kind of emerging
Yeah.
into where we are now. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, entrepreneurship, of course, we know it's a French word, and one of the symbolisms behind the origin of that word is that you swim out into the deep and you find something to grab onto. Um,
Mm,
so you're out in the unknown and you're just solving problems. We knew that we wanted to do something, um, and so we got started, and we got started with a contingency plan. Like, oh man, this might not work. You know what I mean? But we're gonna give it everything we got. And what I actually found when I look back at 2020, right around the George Floyd murders, cities like Baltimore, for example, experienced an economic hike. Then I started to look at other crisis situations, not necessarily related to race. And what I found is that each time in this country, each time there was a crisis, money did not disappear, it just changed
Yep.
hands. And so
mm,
those folks that were enterprising, people that were aware of need meeting, how to meet a need, they would just figure out how to meet a need. And if you can innovate, if you can tinker with it a little bit, you'll be able to steer that ship and navigate that boat. So we were facing government shutdowns because of the pandemic. So we said, okay, we have a garage door. Let's keep the garage door open. Our coffee shop has all hard
Mhm.
surfaces. It was built by a black guy who's our carpenter. All hard surfaces, so easy to clean down. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
then
yeah.
when we created Grindfest, we actually went outside because we wanted more people, but we couldn't be inside. So we wanted to be outside, and it was really going to be like just a type of block party. So each iteration of what happened, we were solving a problem for ourselves. It so happened that other people were experiencing a benefit. And I believe that entrepreneurship, no matter what type of business, no matter what type of industry, as you solve problems and not cower under the pressure of them, if you solve problems, you're not only solving a problem for yourself, but for others. It reminds me, I'm always looking at like financial models and business models. Um, it kind of reminds me of like some during the industrial revolution. um Even when refrigerators were created, they weren't created by the people that proffer them right now. They were created specifically for frozen fish and frozen vegetables.
Mm,
Like that's what they were created for. And when they were purchased because of the patent, because somebody said I can solve other problems with this one thing. So I don't drink coffee, but I own a coffee shop. Why is that? Because coffee is our unifier. And during the George Floyd murder, we were able to be a
Mhm.
place that afterwards people could come. Our coffee shop was open till 10 p.m.
wow,
You get what I'm saying?
wow. Yeah, I totally
It's a
get it.
community place. When people come in, sometimes they're drinking coffee, but most of the time they're meeting with
Yep.
folks.
You know, you just said something that ties into something that one of the entrepreneurs that I admire. I covered him for Black Enterprise, the late Reginald F. Lewis. And you said something about money doesn't disappear. Um, uh, it
Yep.
changes direction. Like it's all it is. It changes direction. And what Mr. Lewis used to say is like I want to get in the way.
Put
Get in
me
the
in
way. Of
the way.
like get in the way of the money. Find out where the money is going. Don't like go over here and say, oh, I got to get that money to come over here. Get in the way of the flow, the natural flow of the marketplace. He was
Mhm.
like, I don't fight the marketplace. And so that whole idea that money, especially in crisis or what we call crisis, doesn't disappear, it
Mhm.
just changes direction. And whoever pivots in that direction, and that word pivot kept coming up over and over and over again. Let's say, I've been doing this show since 2020. It's
Oh
another thing
wow.
that started in 2020, but out of necessity because we weren't doing live events anymore. We had to come up with content that people could watch from their home computers, and we weren't a print magazine anymore. So that you're right. It's like the money didn't disappear; it changed direction, and we're still in business today because we
Come on.
changed direction too, and got in the way of the actual money. So I really, really appreciate that because it's a recurring theme that I've been hearing all these last 2 years from people that say, "Yeah, I started this in 2020. I started this, or I started this in 2019, and we were tempted to shut it down, but we just decided let's keep it
Yeah.
going, let's make some adjustants to keep it going,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
those businesses are thriving today."
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
How
So
much?
so I'm chomping at the bit, man. Tell me
Oh
about
man,
Grindfest.
Lord.
Ah,
You know, that's
man.
probably gonna be my reason to be
Jay,
in Asheville for
Jay
the
for me,
first
Jay is
time.
a love.
Well,
So you set me up.
Love
yeah.
grind fest.
It, it's the blackest business weekend in Western
Yeah,
North Carolina. It's going to be
I
amazing.
love it.
So much fun. The city has approved for us to bring carnival rides into the
First time.
city, right in the middle of today was called the River Arts District. Historically, it was a black business district in Asheville called Southside. And the city gave us a building for $1, and it's there for us to do economic development work. So during our first year, I told you it was 2021. We had gotten started. We had great success getting started, and we said, "Hey, let's go outside." And everybody bring a table. We got some
When we had
tables,
trash cans
and
outside, putting water through
yeah,
it.
we were sitting in the coffee shop on a yellow piece of paper. I wish I had that piece of paper. We was like, "Hey, we bring some games. We'll play some
Mm-hmm.
spades, dominoes. Somebody bring some food. Somebody bring some music, and we want everybody because the coffee shop could only hold 8 vendors at a time. But at this moment, we had like 25. And we said, let's take everybody outside so everybody can have a table on the same
Mm-hmm.
day. We'll ask the landlord if we can use the parking lot. We can play in the grass, have something for kids, have something for families. Let's schedule out fun stuff to happen during the day. Say, all right, let's do it. I like, what we gonna call it? We're gonna
Yep.
call it
All
Grindfest. And one of the local bloggers picked it up and called it a festival. We was like, what? They said it's Asheville's newest festival, and we got a call from the city that said you need a permit. I was like, hold on, what you mean? What you mean? So
We just went to play outside. That's all.
yeah, we were just trying to. I just want to go
yeah.
outside. You know what I mean? I want to go outside. Like we were just trying to get outside. But we knew there had to be a moment where we could drive revenue in a big way. As beautiful as Asheville is, there's some disparities, and we're attacking them. Um, and one of those is that in the city of Asheville, 0.5% of all contracts go to Black people. That's less than half a percent. Um,
Mm,
and as much as our tourism economy is booming, it's a $3 billion a year industry, but Black folks are underrepresented. We wanted that people would come to Asheville and be able to meet and interact and buy from and do business with local Black business
mm.
owners on their turf, in their way, and find and experience things that are unique to Asheville, but are definitely homegrown. So that was the heart behind Grindfest. It is an economic driver. It is one of the most fun weekends in Asheville, and it is the biggest Black business weekend in Western North Carolina.
So
Yeah.
Bruce, do the
So
marketing thing. When is it? How
yeah.
do people
So
get there?
when Jay and I created it with the Grindfest thing, I mean, like what he just said, we were just getting excited. I know how to bring people together and from all different types. Jay was like, "Oh yeah, make sure it touches on this aspect. Like make sure people make money." I was like, "All right, bet I got that part." So we started building, and as he said, I'm just so funny. That story of how we started from a piece of paper to now last year having one of the all-time high records of 10,000 people coming out last year, and we are still fairly new. So what really happened was when we understood the vision of what Grindfest really was supposed to do was an economic driver, but to have a great time on top of that. We made it about Black businesses creating revenue for themselves, and the stories that we would have were just give a little bit of context was that, man, I was able to pay up 3 months of rent. Man, I was able to buy me a new car. Man, I sold out of all of my food every time I've done Grindfest. This would be our third annual Grindfest, our third one, but every time has always been good. So that really caught wind. That really built our model of word of mouth that members begin to tell other Black and brown businesses, hey, you need to be a part of Grindfest. And so we took those stories and we took that information and we made sure we connected it to every institution and every media outlet that already was interested in the work that we were doing. So I would, me and Jay were always ensure, like, hey, did we send it out to this person? Hey, did we send it out to this person? Oh, we need to create just the pieces of when it came to the marketing and the excitement what really drew people in. When it was new, people were excited because we caught it at the right time. Nobody had been outside in a while. And we understood that what that does to an individual being a separate from people. So we was like, this will be the first time a festival had happened. You know, COVID was going on and nobody had been outside because we were trying to what, Jay? Get outside, right? Outside. And
Yeah.
that really just drove it. And then on top of that, we pushed the language of the Blackest Weekend in Asheville when we already knew what was happening prior to George Floyd. You talking about the uprising. So people were ready for a voice and connect, and white body people were ready to connect. It's like, how can I support? So we caught wave of a societal issue and a need for people. So I put language to it. Me and Jay put language to it. So we pulled those people there. And so in our first one, we had 4,000 people come out. We was like, whoa, what's going on?
Wow.
So because we caught a need. And so after,
Yeah, because getting
yeah,
outside is a thing, man. Getting outside is still a thing. I mean, like so you asked me how I'm doing. Part of the reason I'm doing so well is I'm getting
yeah,
outside as much as possible and going as far as possible. So when I said I'll get on a
we
plane,
love it.
you know, what I realized during the pandemic, I was isolated here in northern Jersey, in my house alone, and I realized that almost all my travel to that point, and it's not like I never
Mhm.
traveled, but it was all work related. It was all speeches and conferences and doing, articles but not just getting outside to enjoy being outside. And I'm talking about whether you're talking about getting
Yep.
on my backyard deck. I was like, I'm in this house. I don't really enjoy being
Yeah.
outside the way I should, or going to another country
Yeah.
or going to Asheville.
Mm.
So you're right. You caught when most of us came out of that cabin fever and were like, you know what? When I get outside, I'm
Right.
going all the way outside. They're going to have a
That's
hard
what happened.
time getting me back in. So before we lose, I mean, I want my audience to be clear. When is it happening? Where's the dates?
All right.
And what do we got to
Go.
do to get there?
It is May 26th, 27th, and 28th. That's the fourth weekend in May. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's going to be amazing. You can get your free tickets at grindfestavl.com. You can click on the link to see all of the information about what's going to happen. We're going to have Latin night with salsa
Yep.
dancing, documentary Black in Asheville, as told by local Black elders. They produced a movie, a 90-minute documentary, and you'll be able to see that. We're having a nonprofit and social enterprise summit that morning. Big Boy Waka Flocka is going to be there
Gotta
in
get the link.
concert. We're having carnival rides, funnel cakes, hot dogs, chicken wings,
Put some space on it,
popsicles,
Jay.
all kind of food and fun. It's something there for everybody. Story time with the elders. Actual graduates from the last segregated school in Asheville are going to be there telling story. Line dancing outside, hip hop aerobics, yoga. It's going to be bizarre. It's going to be amazing. And everywhere you turn, you'll be able to see somebody Black doing their thing, and you have the opportunity to participate and to connect with local people doing stuff that you'll only be able to find in Asheville. This is the Blackest Business Weekend in Western North Carolina, and we're breaking records, and we want everybody to come and participate and enjoy and make it your tradition. Come in and celebrate with us. It's been 102 years since Tulsa's Black Wall Street was burned down. And our declaration is that Black Wall Street still lives. And it lives because people like you are keeping the dream alive.
Oh yeah, man. We say all the time, Black Wall Street was a dream
Come on.
deferred, not a dream denied.
Absolutely.
And it's just we got to remember that and hold on to that. The people of Tulsa, Oklahoma, did not die or run out of their business in vain because the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well and kicking in
Absolutely,
Black people.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's like baby's kids, we
We
don't die. I mean, I
that's
was
right.
at I went to the National Museum of African American Culture and History. I was there yesterday, and just to see what our people have overcome and dealt with and done, how everything in the not just this country, but in the four continents that surround the Atlantic Ocean, all the tea, the rice, the sugar, and the tobacco was the result of our Black strength,
Yep.
our Black sweat, and our blood. Like, man, come on.
Yes.
No, we don't
Yes.
die. We definitely
And our
multiply.
and our ingenuity
Come on.
Oh,
because it wasn't just physical; it's
it's our
intellectual
brains.
assets. So
It's what we're
no doubt,
capable
no
of.
doubt. I don't know
And
if
we
you guys
celebrate that.
have seen the yeah. I don't know if you guys seen the documentary that I had a pleasure of being one of the people that was experts included in it, called Boss: The Black Experience in Business.
Oh
If you
man.
haven't seen that, you got to see it.
We'll check it
It's a
out.
PBS doc, Boss: The Black Experience in Business, and it illustrates everything you said. When you really look at the stories of our journey as entrepreneurs, we actually know how to create wealth and build businesses. We always have. Again, it's the obstacles that have been arrayed against us that,
Absolutely.
that we've had to navigate, but it's not a lack of
You
capacity, ability, or knowledge. So
you
everything
know, Alfred,
everything you're saying is right,
just to
right on
just to
point.
add to this,
Listen, man,
a lot of the
with
people, a
Bruce,
lot of
yeah,
partners, or people who not aware of Black Wall Street coming like, hey, where is Black Wall Street? Oh, I know about Wall Street, but where is Black Wall Street? And I always have to tell them, I say, Black Wall Street is a place that is a mindset. When we come together, we organize, and that's how cities are
yes,
built. So the mindset of Black Wall Street is that it lives in us first. So when we think about the history of how it was built, we just decided to come together, and a decision was made collectively, and that decision birth cities, airports, hotels, centers for people to thrive and grow, owning banks, and that all came from collective economics, and that's what we are honestly doing in the digital space, but also now getting people into physical space to feel that what was already a part of our history. So I always have to tell people and educate them and say, Black Wall Street, it happens when Black people come together. We as entrepreneurs and creatives come together. That's Black Wall Street, because without dollar we can do anything. So people's like, oh, okay. And then I had to even share that Black Wall Street was all across the country. We had Durham, had we had Tulsa, and we had
right.
many other locations throughout those 1900s, where we were organized, and just people want to see. I always wonder
Yes.
where we would be, Jay or Alfred, if that was not touched. I just ain't no telling what history would be if Black Wall Street as a whole, Greenwood District, or any of them, the one in Durham, was not touched. And that's what we always want to open up, even moving forward. Yeah.
So listen, man, brothers, in the time that we got left, we probably got about 10 minutes. I really want to get your take on, I like to have like a future
Yeah.
focused ending to the show always. You already touched on some of it, this idea of being able to duplicate this model in cities that are similar to Asheville. Um, but we'll start with you, Bruce, and go to Jay. What do you see us doing? What do you see yourself doing going forward to build on a tremendous amount of progress? I mean,
Mhm.
pandemic years are
Yeah.
long years and then short years at the same time. Like in a way, it seems like, man, that was a long period of time. But I see somebody that I haven't seen since 2019. It feels like I haven't seen them since 2009 because this felt like a long time. But on the other
Uh,
hand, it wasn't that. It was only yesterday. We only talking less than 4 years ago. So you guys come up a long way with both Black Wall Street AVL as well as Grindfest, which is even younger. But there's so much promise. So Bruce, why don't you start with Grindfest and see where you see
yeah.
what the
I
potential
want
of
to
that
start
is
off
in
with
terms
this
of
as
growing
far as
going forward.
what makes it so special, Grindfest, Black Wall Street, is that
Mhm.
as far as in the individuals that we have come in contact with, even in some people in other cities that's just like, hey, I know y'all in Asheville, but I just want to be part. It has brought back individuals, not just in my life, but other people that are part of Black Wall Street, individuals back into their life. And I get to see them create business
Mhm.
and collective economics where they are working together. And entrepreneurship or business is that like that unified, like our coffee. And so, what one of the special things about Grindfest is that I get to see people that from all over the United States, and meet people, individuals that have always needed something to connect to. I see Grindfest Black Wall Street as a beacon of hope. As Jay always says, a hope to all humanity. For me, it is that same exact thing, that same share thing I have shared in far as the same heart Jay has. Even for myself, that Black Wall Street going forward is a place where we're using entrepreneurship, economics as a place of refuge where individuals be able to connect back with each other and do something that they had always wanted to do. So when I think about families at one point in time before they were separated, sometimes family members can't even be in the same household, or members of a body can't even work together. I see Black Wall Street honestly as a form of new church, as a form of how we come to how we organize. And if entrepreneurship is that, and the business is that foundation, then so be it. But it's really what makes it special is that I get to see people come together and understand one another, move forward. And I think that's what people really want. They want to be accepted. We don't. We lost our identity when we talk about Atlantic Strait slave trade. We lost our language. We lost our habits. We lost so much. We can go down the list. We have been medically disenfranchised. You're talking about historically, real estate in every way. And I think this creates healing. I got to see some phenomena, so I could just go on and on about what type of refuge and transformation I've
Powerful.
seen. And I think that moving forward, Black Wall Street is just that. It's a transformative model. It is a model for people to be able to connect to from all over. It says, yes, Black Wall Street still lives in me. And I get to see them wake up and not experience the type of poverty and getting out of poverty, which is a social determinant of health. So now they get to be better, feel better, act better, think better. And I think that is what I see moving forward for Black Wall Street from here into other cities and wherever else people unify to come together to make a dream happen. I think that's what I really see moving forward, honestly, for me.
So Jay, tell me what you see. What I mean when you tell the journey of how this started, what you have and what you guys have achieved is
Hmm.
multiples beyond what the seed of the idea was, even before you started in
Right.
2020. You talk about your journey to get to the point of doing it. So what do you see happening going
Right.
forward?
I see going forward with the property we currently operate in, we lease it from
Hmm.
the city, which means that we're still not a landowner
Mhm.
in a gentrified
Yeah.
neighborhood. We're currently identifying property right now, but we see Black Wall Street actually owning property and being able to have a permanent home base. Although it's a long-term lease and we appreciate it, it's still not
Right.
ownership. So we see that. And this model of what I call inclusive economics is what I talked about in the TED Talk. I see in our city and in other cities around the world where the economies look like, by percentage, they look like the population that's there. So if there is a population of 15% black people, then the economics will reflect that 15% of black people are business owners. Like it needs to reflect that. And you do this in three ways: by cultivating real relationships, connecting with stakeholders, and collaborating on projects. And I actually envision, I see sparks of it, groups of black people that might have different opinions about a thing coming together on what they
Yep.
agree on in a specific place and sharing their power to the advancement of all people. And I think and I see it happening. Actually, it happened before. At the turn of the century, black folk
Yep.
clustered up and it worked then, and it scared the power brokers, and then they dismantled it because of economic fear. It's happening again, and I see it happening even more
Yeah.
in communities and neighborhoods and cities. And I think this time it's going to be more sustainable because our elected officials, we are them, and many of them are listening now. I think that as a humanity, we've come a long way, and I really think the time is
100%.
right. It was Victor Hugo who said, "There
Hmm.
is no force in this world so powerful as an idea whose time has come." We are that idea as black people, and our
Yes.
time has come.
Yes, sir.
Listen, what is the best way for the Beyond the Hype audience, the Black Enterprise audience, to keep up with everything you're doing? Give me your websites, your socials. What is the best way for people? I mean, you already dropped the Grindfest website to register, to come to that. You feel free to drop it again. We want to make sure people are just on top of what's everything that's going on, because the test of a great interview, the test of a great event, is what people do afterwards. I always tell my audience,
Yep.
it's one thing to say you had a good time listening. It's another thing that you took an action afterwards. I want to make sure our audience definitely
Yeah.
can, stay engaged
Yeah,
with
I
what you
think
guys are
the
doing.
best thing is most definitely follow us on our Instagram, and the hashtag handle is the same. We made sure that it's Black Wall Street AVL, and that's all one word: Black Wall Street AVL, all lowercase.
Mm-hmm.
And our website is the same as well: blackwallstreetavl.com. So if you just type those words in
Okay.
and connect it to Asheville, we gonna pop up. Whether you go to Google, what they say again, just type Black Wall Street AVL Asheville, and we'll pop up. But that's our social media and our website. And if you go on that website, you'll begin to see how people can connect and how they can partner and learn more. And they can just reach out honestly from there.
Yeah. But and
Yeah,
we do need
and
y'all's
Jay.
y'all support and participation. Come to Asheville. Don't just come for Biltmore House. Come to Asheville that specific weekend.
Mhm.
Make your presence known so that the city and a region can see the strength of our people and our economic power, our ability to come and celebrate. And then, the next city that does what they do, we go there. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And we create the type of movement that says we show up for each other.
Absolutely.
And on that point, Jay, I want you to build a little bit on it. What about Black entrepreneurs that may be looking for a great place to either move or
Oh well,
start their businesses?
listen, I've been to a lot of cities, and I don't want to talk down on no city, but I'm gonna talk up on Asheville. Most folks don't do it like Asheville. There is so much opportunity,
Mhm.
so much ease of access. Like this is amazing. Like our city council, for example, they have intentions towards equity. Like it's not an afterthought. It's an intention. You get what I'm saying? Our
Mm,
chamber of commerce, our
yeah.
tourism industry, like they're working out deals to make the city more attractive to people to come and start businesses here. So if you have a business, you have an idea, and you're thinking about where to house it, where to headquarter it, you should do it in Asheville. I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and so I hear the front of the conversation and the back of the conversation, and those conversations include us. This window of opportunity is open, and Asheville is the place. There are so many other people that have identified the resources that are here and are coming, and our city is growing at a super fast pace. At least 1,000 new people are moving here every year, but it's not enough of us.
Wow.
It's not enough of us.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen, listen,
Oh, I said
brothers.
every year. I
I
meant
am
every
so
month.
glad that
Every month.
well, every
every
month.
month,
Oh,
every
wow.
month, and it's not enough of
That's
us.
huge. That's
So
huge.
we've got food like you've never seen before, entertainment like you've never seen before,
Mhm.
things and people and things from places from all over the world. And even if you have a business that
Mhm.
operates remotely, you can do it from here. There's an amazing gig economy, even support groups for how you can get the services and supports that you need to run your business. Not only the resources here, the people are here, the support is here, the legislation is right, like the time is right.
And so,
I'm telling you, it's happening. Don't miss
It's like not only an idea, but an
yes,
it.
opportunity.
Oh
The
sir.
time
yes.
has come. Yeah. Listen, brothers, I am so glad that you
Oh
guys were
yeah.
able to make time to join me on Beyond the Hype. Bruce, Jay, thank you. I really appreciate you. And this is a to be continued conversation. When I come through Ashford, I'm gonna
You
be
got
looking. I mean Asheville, excuse me. I'll be looking for you.
All right.
And I'm very much looking forward to the experience. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
me
you.
on Beyond the Hype. Well, you know how we do. Another great edition of Beyond the Hype. This edition of Beyond the Hype was brought to you appropriately by Explore Asheville. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior VP, Executive Editor at Large at Black Enterprise. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.